Let's move on to our next speaker, a friend and ally of WisARP and in all our passenger rail endeavors, Rich Kedzior. He has managed WisDOT's passenger rail program since 2023, including oversight of the Hiawatha service and equipment procurement, and assisting with new route planning and development. He represents WisDOT on the Midwest Equipment Board, the State Amtrak Interstate Passenger Rail Committee, the Next Generation Equipment Committee, and the States for Passenger Rail Coalition. His tenure with WisDOT began in 2015 as the Freight Railroad Program Manager. He's an Army veteran, and his educational credentials include a BA in Economics from the University of Michigan and a Master's in Urban and Regional Planning from UW-Madison. So welcome, Rich Kedzior.
Thanks, Chris. I've been a member of WisARP since 2008. And when I first started coming to meetings, I was the youngest person in the room. And I'm glad to see that's no longer the case, to see some younger folks here. So please keep coming and bring your friends. I always like to take a poll. How many folks took transit to get to this meeting? Oh, wow. Terrific. Great. Next time, bring your friends. I'm going to go try to get through this quickly so we have plenty of time for questions at the end. Those topics, that's what I'm going to be speaking about. I just wanted to mention, so we're still having capacity problems on the Hiawatha and Borealis because of the Horizon coach corrosion problem and embargo. And so our consists are shorter. I'd really love to have at least 300 seats on the Hiawatha. We only have 280 now. And the Borealis, in my opinion, probably should have 400 seats. We only have 210. We had, I think, 292 prior to the embargo. Now we have roughly 210. And I just want to assure everybody we are pressing Amtrak to come up with additional coaches. The fleet is stretched very thin. There's just not enough cars to go around. I just wanted to show our first full fiscal year ridership for the Borealis, 220,000 riders. We are extremely pleased by this level of performance. We are a little concerned about FY26 just because we have fewer seats. We're already seeing ridership declines year over year. So just something to keep an eye on. And, don't be shy about pressing Amtrak yourself to get us more cars. For those who aren't familiar with our Hiawatha service, this is the performance that we saw in fiscal 25. So when I say Chicago, Milwaukee, that's Hiawatha plus Borealis for that corridor. And because of the reduction in capacity, we've seen ridership decline. However, revenue is a little bit better because we've adopted price revenue management by necessity because of our budget constraints. So if you're seeing higher fares on Hiawatha, you're not imagining it. We've had to raise fares to keep up with costs. So, but we are shooting for this corridor, Chicago, Milwaukee. We want to get back to 2019. That was the high water mark for the Hiawatha, 880,000 passengers. And we are poised to keep growing. So, watch this page because we want to see continued growth. We need more frequencies. We need more capacity. And there's, everybody loves a bar graph. So you can see the trend. I think we're still recovering well from the pandemic, but we've got a lot of work to do. The mayor talked a bit about the corridor ID process. Just to illustrate, there are 5 steps in the whole corridor development process. Corridor ID itself is 3 steps. We're still in step 1 for all 4 of our corridors. I'll get to that in a moment. We hope to get into step 2 next year. And once we get into step 3, we call it corridor development. What that is preliminary engineering and environmental clearance. Step 4 is design, step 5 construction. The 4 corridors plus the Eau Claire corridor, which we are not sponsoring, but we're cooperative with. Milwaukee-Chicago Hiawatha service expansion. We are aiming to increase the number of round trips, Hiawatha plus Borealis plus other services to 10 round trips a day. Milwaukee to Green Bay Hiawatha service extension. Milwaukee, Madison, Eau Claire, Twin Cities, and the kids call it the Met. And the TCMC2 or TCMC service expansion via La Crosse, some people call it the Borealis 2. And then, of course, Eau Claire to Twin Cities. For Milwaukee, Chicago, Hiawatha, we're still in step 1. We haven't, because of the government shutdown, we need an amendment to extend the study because there's a lot more material in that particular study than the others. But still, we hope to get into step 2 of that study early next year. Milwaukee to Green Bay, Hiawatha service extension. We submitted our deliverables to FRA in July, early July, and we have gotten 0 feedback yet. We hope to get into step 2 also in calendar 26, probably in the second half of 26. For the MMET, Milwaukee, Madison, Eau Claire, Twin Cities, that one is complex. It's probably the most complex of all 4. And we're really close to submitting our deliverables to FRA for that one. We hope to get into that in early 2026. And then the TCMC2, that one, we did have to go through a few rounds of review to get the budget right. The first budget estimates were really high. We worked with a consultant to get them down, and we're hoping to submit those deliverables in the next 2 weeks. And we're aiming to get into step 2 later in 2026. We have some coordination discussions with MnDOT that are a little complicated, so that's why we need to push. We expect that'll get pushed into late 2026 for step 2. And then Eau Claire's Twin Cities, I know that team submitted their deliverables to FRA in February, and they have not gotten any what I would consider to be substantive feedback from FRA at all. They are trying to raise money for step 2, and we are trying to collaborate with them as best we can. I do want to add that in the Corridor ID program, there's just a handful out of, I think, 69 Corridor ID studies nationwide. Fewer than 5 have made it to step 2, so we're not alone. This is an FRA delay. It's not the states. And I'll also add that it's a new program where everybody's being patient with FRA because they're trying to invent the process as we're flying. right? We're trying to fix the plane as we fly, and it's iterative, and we're all figuring it out together. All right, I want to go through the projects quickly, the current like infrastructure investment projects. TCMC infrastructure, this is the set of projects that we committed to with CPKC to allow the current Borealis service to operate. So we have some a siding in Winona, Minnesota, Mississippi River Bridge, La Crosse double track. There's also La Crosse crossing improvements that need to happen. A tower on the west side of the river in Minnesota and the River Junction track. Total cost estimated. You can see there the details. If you have further questions about that, you can catch me after my presentation. The Milwaukee Airport Rail Station, which I promise you is going to get finished next year. It's taking longer than we would have liked. The framing of the pedestrian bridge should go up later this fall or early winter. There was a long delay due to some fabricated components. The prime contractor lost a supplier because they couldn't certify some pieces. They had to find a new supplier. That's a big cause of the delay since we've been under construction. We hope to have the project complete by the middle of calendar 2026. Just to note, so the Milwaukee Airport project is one of the preconditions required by CPKC to establish 8 round trips between Chicago and Milwaukee, 7 for Hiawatha, and 1 for the Borealis. Muskego Yard Bypass project, this is another long-lived project, and we finally have a agreement in theory with CPKC, but it seems like we're in final stages of approval with CPKC, so we can finally get that FRA grant agreement later, which could be delayed by the government shutdown. But we hope to start design work either this winter or early in 2026 with construction in 2027 through 2029. This is also securing the funding for this, and progress on the CTC component are also preconditions of CPKC to get the 8th round trip. This is a little more detail on the Muskego Yard project. If anybody has any more questions about it, feel free to ask me. This is when I talk about the CTC project, this is it. This is to improve the signals in the station and yard area, Muskego Yard area. Again, if you want more details, I can answer. This project, I'm hoping to wrap up this winter and in the spring. We've had some delays. For those who don't know, it's WisDOT's acquisition of 9 venture cars from Siemens, 6 coach cars and 3 cab coach cars. Siemens is really doing their best to stretch everything out to the end of the contract period. And we've also run into some hiccups with a commissioning location. Commissioning basically finishes the cars, gets them ready for service for Amtrak to accept them into revenue service. And so with all of that, we hope that all 9 cars are in service by April. So one thing we are doing this fall and winter is a survey. The last time we did a survey was 2016, I believe. Okay, everyone's nodding his head, yes. And you'll see more information about this. We'll get that we'll probably have a survey webpage. Folks will be able to take the survey on the train, and we are hoping to capture lots of data so we can learn more about our current customers and folks who are interested but not yet customers. So watch for that. And my colleague, Krista DuPont, is leading the survey. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm Cindy Carter, WisARP member from Appleton, Wisconsin. Anyway, when you start putting your survey on, is there some way you could do a billboard on the highway with a QR code?
We don't have the budget for a billboard.
That's too bad. Well, anyway, speaking of the budget, our legislators on the Republican side seem to have plenty of ideas to come up with money for expansion in I-94 in Milwaukee. 2.5 miles of expansion going on there for the next 8 years at a cost of $1.7 trillion. What the hell?
Yeah, I'm just going to leave that alone.
Maintenance at the multimodal station in Milwaukee. I organized a trip when I was on the Dane County Board. Some of my colleagues and I went there and then traveled to Chicago and back to test out the Hiawatha. And some of the feedback I got from the women on the trip particularly was they felt that the ladies' room at the station was poorly maintained. They felt that that made the trip unpleasant. And I could just say in general, the station doesn't seem to be all that well maintained and cleaned. Do you have any feedback on that? Because that, I think, establishes kind of the impression people get when they arrive in Milwaukee of Amtrak and the city of Milwaukee and everything.
Yeah, so
WisDOT owns the building. We do not have, the management of the building is with a private sector partner who is responsible for the maintenance. And WisDOT and Amtrak are in constant communication with that business partnership that maintains the station and, leases out the space. And it's been a source of problems for a few years. What I would recommend is you send an email comment to Wisconsin DOT Office of Public Affairs. That seems to get more movement than any comment from the rail staff. You can help us try to get that by contacting that Office of Public Affairs directly. Because, yeah, like I said, public comments do get traction in the DOT's office.
thank you.
Jeff Reese from Fond du Lac. 2 weeks ago, I was on my way to the High-Speed Rail Alliance in Chicago, and I wanted to get the Amtrak connector, and unfortunately, it stopped running the first of the month, and so I had to drive all the way down to the park and ride in Wauwatosa. What happened?
Yeah, unfortunately, we ran out of budget. The department did not get the passenger rail budget that we requested for the current biennium, and we were faced with a very difficult decision, and that was, so we have three general things that at the time that were funded out of the passenger rail budget. Passenger service, so Hiawatha and Borealis, we provide state support to Amtrak for that. The corridor ID studies, and then the throughway bus. And we did not have enough funding to do everything. And so we made the difficult decision, instead of cutting Hiawatha service, which was another choice, we decided to cut the bus, unfortunately, and I'm sorry. And we also had to shuffle our sequencing of the corridor ID studies for next year because we don't have enough money to do everything at once. And I am sorry. I think it was a really good service. I hope someday to bring it back once we have the funding. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Rich.